Thank you all very much for your hospitality. It's the first time for me in Kosovo. It's the first time in Pristina. I didn't have any time yet to explore the city, but I'm going to do this tomorrow. And I make sure I get some flair. I've heard a lot about your local cuisine. And I'm sure for me it's not the last time. Just in case you're going to make it to Vienna, please make sure you're visiting our university, Modul University, because it's located on top of Kahlenberg and it's a very famous tourist destination. So the last 6 years I've been sitting in here overlooking Vienna and doing research on blockchain. And it's getting increasingly complicated for me presenting this topic because I'm never sure who the audience is going to be. And I'm on the main stage, so what I'm doing today is more like a business presentation. It's not too technical, but I would like to get a feeling for how much experience you have. So if you have owned some cryptocurrency or if you own some cryptocurrency, please raise your hand for a second. Or some of you have, some of you don't. That's usually the case. So I hope that's something in it for everyone. I'm going to start with the history. And I'm starting with Bitcoin. Of course, that's a logical starting point. Bitcoin didn't come out of nowhere. It was basically a very clever mix of different technologies. And the one person or the group, we don't know who he, she, or they are, was Satoshi Nakamoto, who created this stew of technologies. So he combined something that's called proof of work. It's one way to make sure it's one part of a consensus mechanism. And he combined digital cash, he combined a solution for Byzantine fault tolerance. He put everything together and created something that was ingenious. Actually, the first time I heard about Bitcoin, I didn't fully get it because I was aware of these electronic payment systems and I thought, wow, somebody finally found a solution, so what's in it for me? I can save 2 or 3% for transactions. That's nice, but that's basically it. I didn't see the big picture. And the big picture was financial inclusion, for example. So Bitcoin is a system that can be used by everybody, and there's nobody who can stop you from using it. And there's one technology behind Bitcoin that's called blockchain that opens up the door for many, many other applications. And the one thing you need to understand that Bitcoin opens up the doors for the Internet of Value. So for the first time in history, it was possible to shift value over the internet between peers. If you send out an email or if you send somebody a picture, then you're not sending the picture itself or the email, you're sending a copy of it. But if you send me a Bitcoin, please do, then you're sending me the real thing. You know, you don't own it anymore, and that's the difference. So let's look at the history. It started in 2009. And this is the Bitcoin price evolution, by the way. And in the first couple of years, so from 2009 to 2015, not that much has happened. And you can see it in the price of Bitcoin. Of course, there was something going on in the background. There were cryptographers and computer scientists who got the idea, but the general public didn't take notice. And this changed in around 2015, 2016. A book came out from the Debscots, The Blockchain Revolution. And if you read this book, you might get a little bit dizzy because there's so many application scenarios in there. You might say, how is it possible that the same technology solves the problem of financial inclusion, can help to foster sustainability, can provide solutions for, I don't know, healthcare, supply chain management, and so on and so on. And the basic idea is you need to understand what's going on in the background. So let's look at the history. What happened after the blockchain revolution? There was the blockchain winter. I could experience this. There were some guys around who said, you don't need blockchain for anything. So every kind of hype, there is some kind of counter-hype. And in 2015, 2016, blockchain was the silver bullet for everything. And then the use cases didn't come up. And so people were saying, we don't need blockchain at all. In the meantime, situation has changed quite a bit, and nowadays we have a more fine-grained view. And this is a decision chart. I'm not going through it, and I'm not expecting you to be able to read all it, but the basic idea behind it is that you have to ask yourself some questions in order to figure out if you need a blockchain solution and what kind of specific blockchain solution you need. The first question you need to ask yourself, do you have a decentralized business model? Because blockchain technology is all about decentralization. It's about peer-to-peer. Everybody is on the same level. You don't need a hierarchy. You don't need one single entity, one person, one organization saying what's the truth. But everything is being done on a common level. Then you need to ask yourself questions about trust, about processing speed, about all these features that you need for your business model, and depending on the answers, you can come up with different kind of blockchain solutions that might be suitable for you. So in a nutshell, blockchain is not a silver bullet. There are many blockchains out there, but there might be one that's ideal for your business model. Yeah, actually, like many people in the blockchain space, I got myself a sports car, I got myself a Lamborghini. I even have it here. So this one is a green Lamborghini. And I also got myself a tractor for demonstration purposes. And I'm always asking my students the question, which one is better? And they always come up with the right answer. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to win a race, Lamborghini might be the better choice. If you have some harvest that you need to bring in, then use the tractor. And the same thing with blockchain solutions. Before I'm going to talk about different solutions, let's talk about the definition I came up with. So blockchain is something that's decentralized. I already mentioned that. That means there is no specific hierarchy. Everybody has the same rights. A blockchain takes transactions and puts them in blocks, and those blocks are kind of connected in a very ingenious way. You take a checksum of one block and put it in the next block. So what this does is that if you make any changes in the past, you can immediately identify that. So you cannot change history. And that's a core issue of blockchain. You create tamper-proof and immutable records. And the way you do this can be done in ways such that everybody is allowed to read data on the blockchain. That's a public blockchain. Or it could be the case that you have a restricted circle of organizations or people who are allowed to do so, then you have a private blockchain. And you can also differentiate between who is allowed to write something or validate something on a blockchain. If everybody can do that, it's permissionless. If you have a group of organizations or people, then it's permissioned. And so you have a very basic schema. And of course, Bitcoin is a public and permissionless blockchain. That means you can participate if you like, you can enter anytime, you can exit anytime, and you can read everything that's on the Bitcoin blockchain. Private and permission solutions, some people even claim they are not real blockchain solutions. I'm a little bit more tolerant. They are restricted when it comes to the circle of people or organization that can participate. And those are very often used for supply chain solutions. And I have a picture here of a lot of different dogs. I just wanted to point out, like with cars or dogs, you have so many different species or breeds. And if you need a watchdog, most likely you don't pick a Chihuahua. If you need a dog you can place in your handbag, a Great Dane would be a poor choice. Same thing with blockchain. There is no one blockchain solution. There are many, many out there. And I came up with a pyramid. Actually, that's a paper I'm working on. And the idea is I want to split up the whole ecosystem in 3 layers. So on the very lowest layer is all the technology. And this is something I would say that's interesting for the CTOs, the computer scientists, the cryptographers. They are concerned with what kind of consensus mechanism are you using? And what kind of cryptography are you using? I still remember in 2017 I attended a panel discussion. There was one guy in the audience who said, blockchain is not going to work because it's based on cryptography, and in the future we're going to have quantum computers and that will break everything. And just a couple of weeks ago, one blockchain called Algorand now implemented quantum secure computing. And the same thing can be done in Bitcoin. So there's constantly something changing on the lowest level, but this is something that usually is more interested for the developers, technicians, and there's a lot going on. On the next level, we talk about management. We have emerging properties. And this is the interesting part for you who are thinking about creating new business models. We have immutability of data. Yes, I know it's not perfect, we can discuss this, but more or less the idea of blockchain is to have data that you cannot change anymore. Just think about the implications for accounting. You can audit data on the fly. What else do we have? For example, programmability. We can put smart contracts. Those are little programs that are being executed in a deterministic manner, which means you know exactly what you're getting and you can potentially also inspect them. We can put those smart contracts on blockchain and we can create systems that are very predictable and fair. Or we can have shared data access. Just think about supply chain management. Every entity in the supply chain has access to the same data at the same point in time in real time. And that's kind of revolutionary. So those are the properties that are emerging. And I would say those are interesting for management. And on the highest level are all those applications, all those use cases you can create by combining these properties. And in the past 6 years or so, I came across many applications that wouldn't work without a blockchain in the background. So if I'm in a jury or if I'm on an advisory board of a startup, I'm always asking one question first. Why do you need a blockchain? And I can tell you there are many applications out there which cannot be done without a blockchain. I'm giving you a couple of examples in a second. I have to mention we have trade-offs. There is no perfect solution. There is no silver bullet. A very famous trade-off comes from Vitalik Buterin, one of the co-founders of Ethereum, one of the most popular blockchains. And he said, we have this issue between decentralization. If we have a system that's totally decentralized, like Bitcoin, everybody can join, it might have some implications for example, scalability. How many transactions per second can you process? And it might also have issues for security, because if you have something where everybody, people you don't know, can join, then security level might be a completely different one than what you would have if you would know everybody. But even that is an oversimplification. Let's look at a table that colleagues of mine did from Karlsruhe. I'm not expecting you to be able to read this table, but this is more fine-grained. They're outlining many more trade-offs than just the security trilemma. Maybe some of you have heard about the trilemma, but I'm not sure about this table. For example, they have the block size and transaction fee in the first row, and many other trade-offs. Again, think about cars. Each car has specific features, and you also have trade-offs. If you have a spacey one, most likely it's not good for using it in the city and so on. What I'm going to do now, I have to keep an eye on the time. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I promised you in the beginning I give you some appetizers, some use cases, and I took some from a recent article of mine in which I investigated the use of blockchain in tourism. And you will see there are many ideas you can take here and apply to other areas. I've done research on blockchain in healthcare, blockchain in supply chain management, blockchain in e-voting. So it's always blockchain, but the basic principles are always the same. First application would be payments. Do we have an issue? So I keep it here and pay attention that... Is it working? Another block, a stumbling block. Yeah, so first thing, of course, payments. That's the number one use case. You know, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a payment system. Many people nowadays using it as a store of value because they expect the value to go up. But basically, you can make payments. I made payments with Bitcoin in the past. What are the advantages? First of all, you can save transaction fees. Because basically, cryptocurrencies based on blockchain are intended to be more efficient and cheaper than traditional currency or monetary systems. If it's not the case, then it's just because many of those applications are still in an early stage. There's very fast settlement. Very often you will hear that people are telling you, oh, it takes so long before you settle a transaction on Bitcoin, and with Visa, so it's much faster. It's a difference in perception. In Bitcoin, if you really want to make sure that transaction is final, you should wait for about 6 blocks, which is about 1 hour. Then you can be very sure that history won't be changed. But keep in mind, if you're using Visa or some kind of credit card payment system, it's not a settlement system. Transactions are not final. It's just information being sent around. And you can attract new audiences. Here you can see a couple of screenshots of companies I was interviewing, and they are using cryptocurrencies to reach out to the younger generation that is willing to use their wallets and to pay with crypto. Let's see, is it working? I think my remote is stuck. Oh yeah, not sure how many of you have seen the Champions League final in May 2022. Liverpool and Real Madrid. Real won 1-0, but the whole game was delayed for 36 minutes. I was sitting in front of my TV set. I'm more like an armchair soccer fan, but I was confused because I had to wait a long time before the game started. And the reason for that is that they had issues with fake tickets before the stadium. And you can see on these pictures there were many Liverpool fans who had real tickets and who couldn't get in because there were so many fake tickets circulating. And the police was even using tear gas. It's not very convenient if you're a soccer fan, if you have a ticket, if you cannot get in. And I was sitting in front of my TV and taking out my cell phone because I wanted to know if there are already solutions out there for the use of blockchain, in this case NFTs for ticketing, and I found one. Does it work? Okay. Ed Sheeran, for example, was already using blockchain-based non-fungible tokens for tickets. What's the cool thing about this? You cannot fake them. So if you want to avoid issues like that in the future, keep an eye on so-called NFTs. Yeah, NFTs was such a huge hype last year, and now some people are saying NFTs are dead, that I decided to devote some time, and I'm going to show you an example of mine. So NFTs is basically a proof that you own something. It could be something physical. It could be a proof that you own a house or a car or a part of a house, or it could be something digital like those CryptoKitties, one of the first applications, not the first one, but one of the first popular applications of non-fungible tokens on blockchain. And each of these CryptoKitties, each of these cats were different, and you could breed them. It was kind of a computer game. And of course, as so often, people were saying, yeah, that's nice, but are there any real-world applications? And last year, the hype really went up. And this is the first Twitter tweet from Jack Dorsey, and he sold it for $2.9 million US. So you can say, I own the first Twitter tweet, but actually, they found it very hard to resell, and now nobody wants to pay money for something like that. So my question was, are there any hands-on application for NFTs? And I created one for a children's hospital in Austria. Actually, this was a project that I just wanted to do for my students, but then I got so much positive response that I thought I'm going to continue further, and if you like, you can get an NFT. It works like that. Oh, by the way, here you have a link to YouTube. I have an instruction how to get those NFTs, and you can also scan it if you like. And one of these pictures costs about, at the moment, I think 26 euro or something like that. So what I did, I got drawings from children from a hospital, so I didn't make these drawings. I couldn't make them as well, and I minted 10 copies of each of 11 drawings, and you can buy them as an NFT, and you have it on your cell phone, and then you have proof that you made a donation. So what are the advantages? First, the transaction fees are pretty low. All of the money goes to the hospital. And of course, at the moment, we still have this volatility with Ethereum, but in the future, it's expected with sharding and technologies like that, the transaction fees will come down. So you have very little friction in between. If you make a donation, almost all of the money goes to the hospital. Second advantage, if you don't believe me that all of the money goes to the hospital, you can go to an Explorer, Polygon Explorer in this case, and you can check it for yourself. You don't have to trust me. Check it out and see where your money goes. What else? We can create a community. If you own an NFT, you can become part of a community, and the hospital, for example, could make a meeting among members and can show them online where the money goes. You can put it on your website to have proof that you donated something. And number 5, you can sell it to somebody else. So if you don't want to have the drawing anymore, sell it to somebody else, and if you do so, 10% of the proceeds automatically go to the hospital. So those are 5 good reasons why you should use an NFT for making donations. And if you say, I'm not so much into NPOs, think about loyalty programs. That would be the commercial counterpart. I think many companies can benefit a lot from using NFTs in the loyalty programs. I'm currently doing research on that, so if you're interested in more information, please let me know in a couple of months. And this is something similar to what I've just told you before. Many loyalty programs nowadays are inefficient. Companies do not know how to handle those future payments. But if you use a blockchain-based solution, you can make it more transparent, you can make it more fungible, and you can make it easier for customers to exchange tokens among themselves and get more offerings. Something completely different. I'm jumping back and forth between the use cases, I know, but please keep in mind all those properties of blockchain. Location tracking. You can easily track the location, for example, in the tourism industry of luggage. And that's a huge market. You can see in 2019 it was 2.5 billion, which dropped to 0.6 billion in 2020. But that was not because of blockchain. But there was another reason I'm not going to mention here, but you all know it now. It's going up again, of course. And blockchain is ideal for tracking and tracing because of the shared data access I've mentioned before. And you can even track people. And there are solutions out there in which this is done in a privacy-preserving manner. So information is only being released if something happens to you. And this is really innovative. Yeah, all kinds of supply chains. It might be interesting for you if you buy some expensive wine to know where it comes from, but the whole topic is much more important. We can include everything that has to do with food safety in here to make sure that no adulterated food or pharmaceuticals are being produced and sold, which could even be harmful to humans. And that's another huge area. Identity management. This is something that was mentioned a couple of times yesterday. And I have to be clear here. It doesn't have to be the case that you need a blockchain for identity management. There are different approaches out there, but it could be the case that you're using one. And the basic idea of identity management would be that you have 3 parties. You have a holder, which could be you, for example. But it could also be an animal. It could be an object. It could be a truck, an airplane, or a part of an airplane. You want to know where the parts of the airplane come from because they need to have maintenance. Then you need to have an issuer. For example, my university is now issuing credentials on blockchain. The big advantage is they cannot be faked. Think about the tickets. And the final one, the final third party is the verifier, who needs information at a specific point in time. It could be a student of us applying for a master's program and the university wants to check if he or she really completed the degree with us. It could be customs who needs to check some kind of good. It could be an airline for checking in. You see how many application scenarios we have here. And the interesting thing is, I mentioned it before, that there are ideas out there how to do this in a privacy-preserving manner if we are talking about human beings. Yeah, since this is about tourism, just think about the Bitcoin idea in the beginning. It was all about disintermediation, meaning getting rid out of intermediaries. Bitcoin wanted to get rid of all financial intermediaries like banks if you want to make a transfer, but you can take this concept one level further and, for example, in the tourism industry, you can think about getting rid of all those booking intermediaries, which could be Booking.com, Airbnb, and of course those companies know about those scenarios and they're currently also rethinking the business models. Some of them are integrating cryptocurrency payments, so we have to see how this works out. But the big advantage, of course, would be for the buyers and the sellers that transactions would become cheaper. And yeah, that's my final example. You can see I'm jumping around quite a bit, and the final one would be the credibility of reviews. Could be all kinds of reviews. I'm working together with companies that are doing that for tourism. If you want to review your stay at a hotel, I'm staying here in Pristina, how can companies make sure that my review is authentic and that it was not written by a bot? And you can also use blockchain technology here to guarantee that the person who wrote the review is really the one who consumed the service. So reviews are getting a high level of credibility in the future, hopefully. Yeah, so I can wrap up my presentation in 3 major findings. Please pay attention. All those building blocks of blockchain are currently under development. So if anyone is telling you blockchain can do this, blockchain can do that, it might be true for a specific system at a specific point in time, but there's a lot going on in technical communities. Second one, in the media, you very often read statements that are not true because it's a lack of understanding. And this even pertains to very well-known media, and you will find a lot of, fake news if it comes to sensitive topics like financial systems or disintermediation. So also keep that in mind. And the last one, the future, of course, is uncertain. We have many different options where we could go. One example, for example, is CBDC, central bank digital currencies, which is a huge topic. For those of you who have not heard about it, please spend some time reading about it. It's a way how digital banks are currently considering creating new monetary systems. They could be on blockchain, but they don't have to be. But they could be implemented in many, many different ways with huge implications for individuals. So the future is uncertain, but it's exciting, and it's up to us, it's up to the developers, it's up to the kids for the next generation, it's up to us in the main room to create use cases and applications that benefit society, consumers and organizations. And on the last slide, I have all the contact information. If you want to reach out to me, I'm easy to find. And I'm always happy if somebody sends me an email or connects on LinkedIn. Thank you.